Let's be real. We've all got at least one toxic person in our lives. Maybe it's a coworker who constantly undermines you, a friend who only calls when they need something, a family member who criticizes everything you do, a partner who makes you feel small, or maybe it's that person who drains every ounce of energy from you and somehow makes everything about them. And if you've ever Googled how to deal with toxic people, you've probably seen the same advice over and over. Just cut them out of your life. Set boundaries. Don't let them affect you. Cool. Super helpful. Except what if you can't just cut them out? What if it's your boss, your parent, your co-parent, or someone you have to see regularly? What if you've tried setting boundaries and they just ignore them? And how exactly are you supposed to just not let them affect you when they're actively making your life difficult? Today, we're going beyond the generic advice. We're talking about how to actually deal with toxic people in the real world, including situations where you can't just walk away. We'll cover how to identify truly toxic behavior, practical strategies that actually work, how to protect your mental health, and how to know when it's time to leave. This is the comprehensive guide. But before we begin, welcome back to my channel. And if you're new, I'm Michelle, and I'm so glad you're here. If you enjoyed today's video, please boop the like button's nose and hit that subscribe button while you're at it. You can also click on that little bell to be notified when I post my next video. All right then, let's get into it. First, we need to get clear on what toxic actually means, because this term gets thrown around a lot, and not everyone who's difficult or annoying is actually toxic. A toxic person consistently exhibits patterns of behavior that harm your well-being, violate your boundaries, and refuse to take accountability. Keyword, consistently. We all have bad days. We all mess up sometimes. That doesn't make someone toxic. Toxicity is a pattern, not an incident. Here are the hallmarks of genuinely toxic behavior. Manipulation. They use guilt, fear, obligation, or deception to control you. They might play the victim, twist your words, or make you question your own reality. That's gaslighting. You often leave interactions feeling confused or like somehow everything became your fault. Lack of accountability. They never genuinely apologize or take responsibility. Everything is someone else's fault, usually yours. If they do apologize, it's hollow. I'm sorry you feel that way. Or I'm sorry, but you made me do it. Constant criticism or belittling. They regularly put you down, dismiss your feelings, mock your achievements, or make you feel inadequate. This might be overt or disguised as just joking or trying to help. Emotional vampirism. Every interaction leaves you drained. They take and take and take, but never give back. Conversations are always about them. Your problems are minimized while theirs are catastrophic. They expect constant support, but offer none. Boundary violations. You set boundaries and they ignore them, argue with them, guilt you about them, or agree and then violate them anyway. Your no is treated as a negotiation, not an answer. Unpredictability and volatility. You're walking on eggshells, never knowing what will set them off. Their mood dictates everyone else's experience. This keeps you in a state of anxiety and hypervigilance. Undermining and sabotage. They undermine your success, spread gossip, turn others against you, or actively sabotage your efforts. They're threatened by your wins and energized by your losses. Now, here's what's important. Someone can be difficult, annoying, or even hurtful without being toxic. Your awkward coworker who talks too much isn't toxic. They're just annoying. Your friend who's going through depression and needs extra support isn't toxic. They're just struggling. Your parent who means well but gives unsolicited advice isn't necessarily toxic. They might just have poor boundaries. Toxicity is about patterns of harmful behavior combined with a refusal to acknowledge or change that behavior. It's about consistent harm, not occasional friction. Also important, sometimes the toxic person is us. If you find that every relationship you have is toxic, it might be worth examining your own patterns. But that's a different video. Before we talk about how to deal with toxic people, let's address why it's so hard to leave or set boundaries with them in the first place. Because if you're struggling with this, you're not weak or stupid. There are real reasons why toxic relationships are difficult to navigate. Intermittent reinforcement. Toxic people aren't toxic 100% of the time. If they were, you'd leave immediately. Instead, they have good moments. They're charming, kind, vulnerable, or fun. These positive moments come unpredictably, which creates a psychological bond similar to gambling addiction. You keep hoping the good version will become the permanent version. You think, when they're good, they're so good. If I just do X, they'll stay that way. History and attachment. If this person is a family member or long-term friend, you have years of history. You remember who they used to be, or you hold on to the hope they'll change. There's also sunk cost fallacy. I've invested so much in this relationship, I can't leave now. Fear, obligation, and guilt. These are powerful tools toxic people use. You're afraid of the consequences of leaving. Their reaction, what they'll say about you, being alone. You feel obligated. They're family. They need you. You promised. And you feel guilty. What if they hurt themselves? What if you're abandoning them? What if you're the bad guy? Financial or practical dependence. Sometimes you literally can't leave. It's your boss and you need the job. It's a family member you live with. It's a co-parent of your children. The practical realities make leaving complicated or impossible. Trauma bonding. In situations with abuse, your nervous system can become bonded to the person harming you. The cycle of tension, explosion, and reconciliation creates powerful neurological and hormonal responses that make leaving feel impossible, even when you know you should. Low self-worth. If you don't believe you deserve better, you'll tolerate worse. Toxic people often erode your self-worth over time, which makes you less likely to leave. You start believing their narrative that you're the problem. You're too sensitive. You're lucky they put up with you. Social or cultural pressure. Our culture tells us to forgive, give people second chances, keep families together, be loyal. Breaking these norms, even when necessary, feels wrong and invites judgment from others. Understanding why you've stayed isn't about making excuses. It's about having compassion for yourself. You're not stupid for being in this situation. You're human, and these dynamics are powerful. So you're dealing with someone toxic, and for whatever reason, you can't just cut them out of your life. What do you actually do? This is one of the most effective techniques for dealing with toxic people you must interact with. The idea is to become as boring and uninteresting as a gray rock. Toxic people feed on emotional reactions, drama, defensiveness, hurt, anger. When you stop providing that supply, they often lose interest or move on to easier targets. That's a really good idea. How to do it? Keep all interactions brief, boring, and emotionless. Give minimal information. Don't share personal details. Respond with neutral phrases. Okay, I see. That's interesting. Don't argue, explain, defend, or engage emotionally. Be polite, but bland. For example, they try to provoke you with criticism. Instead of defending yourself or getting upset, you respond with, thanks for your input, and change the subject or leave. This works especially well with narcissists and drama seekers who thrive on getting reaction. You can't control toxic people, but you can control your level of engagement. Set clear boundaries about what you will and won't tolerate, and prepare to enforce them with consequences. The key is boundaries are about you, not about controlling them. You're not saying you need to stop doing X. You're saying when you do X, I will do Y. For example, when you raise your voice, I leave the conversation. When you criticize my parenting, I end the visit. When you gossip about me, I reduce contact. Then, and this is crucial, you have to follow through every single time. Toxic people will test boundaries repeatedly. If you enforce them inconsistently, they learn boundaries don't matter. This sounds simple, but it's transformative. Stop expecting them to change. Stop hoping they'll suddenly become reasonable, empathetic, or fair. They won't. When you accept this reality, their behavior becomes less personal and less devastating. You're not giving up on them improving. You're just not basing your well-being on the hope that they will. This mental shift allows you to interact with them based on who they actually are, not who you wish they were. JADE stands for justify, argue, defend, explain. Toxic people will bait you into these interactions, and they're all traps. The more you try to justify your decisions, argue your perspective, defend yourself, or explain your reasoning, the more ammunition you give them. Instead, state your boundary or decision once, clearly, and don't elaborate. I won't be attending. That doesn't work for me. I've decided to handle it differently. When they push back, and they will, repeat yourself calmly or use the gray rock method. You don't owe them a detailed explanation. If you're dealing with a toxic person in a professional context or co-parenting situation, document everything. Keep records of emails, texts, incidents. This protects you if things escalate and you need evidence. It also helps you to maintain your own grip on reality when they try to gaslight you, especially if you have ADHD and you're super forgetful. You might not be able to eliminate contact, but you can reduce it. Keep interactions brief. Don't be alone with them if possible. Have a buffer person or exit strategy. Limit information they have about your life. Use email instead of phone calls or text messages. Meet in public places. Whatever reduces your exposure without creating bigger problems. Dealing with toxic people is emotionally exhausting. You need outlets. Talk to a therapist, trusted friends, or support groups. Journal, create art, process your feelings outside the relationship so you don't bottle them up or explode inappropriately. This isn't gossip. It's necessary emotional hygiene. Toxic people are masters at making you doubt yourself. Am I overreacting? Am I the problem? Am I too sensitive? Keep trusted people in your life who can reality check your perceptions. When you're questioning yourself, talk to someone who has your best interest at heart and isn't under this person's influence. You can't control their behavior, but you can control yours. You can't make them respect you, but you can respect yourself. You can't make them care, but you can care for yourself. Shift your focus from changing them to maintaining your own integrity and well-being. If the toxicity involves any element of danger, physical, financial, or severe psychological, you need a safety plan. And this might include having money saved, important documents secured, people who know the situation, a place to go, legal resources identified. Even if you're not ready to leave, having a plan reduces the feeling of being trapped. So we've talked about managing toxic relationships you can't leave. But let's be clear. Sometimes you actually do need to leave. How do you know when it's time? It's time to seriously consider leaving when the relationship is damaging your mental or physical health. You're anxious, depressed, developing physical symptoms, losing yourself, or unable to function normally because of this person. There's abuse, emotional, physical, financial, sexual. Any form of abuse is a red flag that this needs to end. Abuse doesn't get better, it escalates. Always. You've set boundaries repeatedly and they're consistently violated. If you've clearly communicated your needs and limits and they're ignored or dismissed, this person has shown you they don't respect you. The bad significantly outweighs the good. Those few good moments don't balance out consistent harm. You're not abandoning ship at the first sign of trouble. You're recognizing a pattern that isn't sustainable. It's costing you your integrity. They refuse to acknowledge any problem. If they insist everything is your fault, you're too sensitive, you're too needy, you're the problem, and they show zero willingness to examine their behavior, there's no path forward. And if applicable, your children are being harmed. When kids are in the picture, the calculus changes. Protecting them might require actions you wouldn't take just for yourself. If you decide to leave, here's how to do it as safely as possible. Plan ahead. Don't make impulsive decisions if you can avoid it. Secure your resources, documents, support system, and living situation first if possible. Get support. Don't do this alone. Tell trusted people what's happening. If there's any element of danger, contact domestic violence resources, even if it seems not that bad. Be prepared for escalation. Toxic people often get worse when they sense you're leaving. They might love bomb you, make promises, or escalate. That's why I keep saying that. Or escalate manipulations or threats. Expect this and don't let it pull you back in. Go low or no contact. Once you leave, minimize or eliminate contact. Block if necessary. Don't engage with attempts to draw you back in. This might feel harsh, but toxic people will exploit any opening. Expect grief. Even when leaving is the right choice, it hurts. You're not just losing the relationship, you're losing the hope of what it could have been. Allow yourself to grieve. Get professional support. Therapy can be invaluable for processing your trauma, rebuilding your sense of self, and learning to recognize and avoid similar patterns in the future. Don't go back. This is the hardest part. They will try to hoover you back in. They'll apologize, change temporarily, tell you what you want to hear. Remember, patterns don't change without sustained, genuine work. A few days or weeks of good behavior isn't change, it's manipulation. Whether you're managing a toxic relationship you can't leave, or you're in the process of leaving, you need to actively protect your mental health. This isn't optional, it's survival. First, validate your own experience. You're not crazy, you're not too sensitive, and you're not overreacting. If it feels wrong, it probably is wrong. Trust your gut. Toxic people make you doubt your perceptions. Actively counter that by affirming your own reality. Second, maintain your identity. Toxic people erode your sense of self. Actively engage in things that remind you who you are. Hobbies, values, relationships with healthy people, activities you enjoy. Don't let the toxic relationship consume your entire identity. Third, practice self-compassion. Stop beating yourself up for being in this situation, for not leaving sooner, for your reactions, for your mistakes. You're doing the best you can in a difficult situation. Treat yourself with kindness. Fourth, regulate your nervous system. Toxic relationships keep you in fight or flight. You need practices that calm your nervous system. Deep breathing, exercise, time in nature, meditation, whatever works for you. This isn't woo-woo, it's physiological necessity. Fifth, create mental and emotional distance. Even if you can't create physical distance, you can create psychological distance. Remind yourself, this is about them, not me. Their behavior reflects their issues, not my worth. I can hear their words without internalizing them. 6, celebrate small wins. Every day you prioritize your well-being, that's a win. Acknowledge them. 7th, build a support network. Don't isolate. Toxic people often try to cut you off from others. Resist this. Maintain relationships with people who remind you of reality, who support you, who reflect back your worth. And finally, get professional help. There's no shame in needing therapy. Dealing with toxic people, especially long-term, causes real psychological damage. A good therapist can help you heal, develop strategies, and rebuild. Here's something important that doesn't get said enough. You are not responsible for fixing, saving, or tolerating toxic people. Our culture pushes this narrative that if you're a good person, you stick it out. You forgive. You give second chances. You see the good in people. And while these things have value, they can also be used to manipulate you into accepting unacceptable treatment. Being a good person doesn't mean being a doormat. Having compassion for someone doesn't mean tolerating harm. Understanding why someone is toxic doesn't mean you have to subject yourself to their toxicity. You can have empathy for their pain while still protecting yourself from their behavior. You can acknowledge their trauma while refusing to become their next victim. You can wish them well while maintaining distance. Your first responsibility is to yourself and your well-being, not in a selfish way, but in a self-preservation way. You can't pour from an empty cup. You can't help anyone if you're destroyed. And sometimes the most loving thing you can do for both of you is to walk away. So let's wrap this up. Dealing with toxic people is one of the hardest things you'll face. There's no perfect solution, no magic phrase that makes them suddenly reasonable. No way to emerge completely unscathed. But you have more power than you think. You can set boundaries, you can reduce engagement, you can protect your mental health. And if necessary, you can leave. Remember, their toxicity is about them, not about you. You didn't cause it, you can't cure it, and you can't control it. But you can control your response. You deserve relationships that add to your life, not drain it. You deserve to be treated with respect. You deserve peace. Don't let anyone, family, friend, partner, or colleague, convince you otherwise. Thanks for watching. Drop a comment if this resonated or if you have questions. And remember, choosing yourself isn't selfish, it's survival. Take care of yourself out there. Rise higher, burn brighter, and I'll see you in the next one.